Hi everyone, welcome back to Hive Knits and Natters YouTube channel with me, Lizzie, the maker behind Hive Knits. You can find me on Instagram as Hive Knits or Ravelry as Hive Knits. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Lizzie. I'm a knitter based in the northwest of England, and when I'm not knitting, I am working as a doctor to fund my yarn habit. Today it's the 30th of December 2022, which means it's the second to last day of 2022. And I am seeing 2022 roundup videos pop up all over YouTube and reels pop up all over Instagram. I'm not a reels person. I can't really get on board with making the ones that actually look any good. So I won't be doing a reel. And initially I wasn't sure if I was going to do one of these roundup videos because I actually do enjoy watching them. I find them really interesting, but I have this thing where I'm like, why would people want to know what I've made this year? They know already, or they're not interested. But the more I watched, I kind of thought, do you know what? It's fun. I've got a bit of time when to film when I normally don't really have much time at all to film. So here we are, consider the bandwagon officially jumped on by me. So yesterday I kind of sat and made a note of all the things that I'd made this year. And you always think, oh, it's not that much. And then you go back and you think, oh, actually, when you tot everything up, it's quite a lot. And most of them I have with me, some have been gifted. So I just thought I'd go whiz through them and show you. Quick disclaimer, I am in a different location because our Christmas tree was in front of my normal filming spot. So experimenting a bit with location, lighting, etc. If you've been watching my podcast recently, you'll know that we are now the owners of 2 kittens, although they're becoming more cat than kitten by the day. But I've only filmed 2 episodes while they have been sharing our house with us. The first one, they were conked out after their jabs, and the second one, they were actually at the vets having their castration and their spaying. Today, they are in the house. They have not been, what's the word, sedated in any way, but as luck would have it, one is asleep in the bed upstairs and one is asleep in the bed down here. So I'm hoping that I can get through most of what I need to say without any interruptions, but if you hear some scratching, meowing, then you know what it's about. The other animal themed issue I have going on today is not to do with my pet. Next door, our neighbour, I think she is looking after someone else's dog, maybe while they're away or whatever, I don't know. She has a dog who is good as gold and is not noisy at all. But the last couple of days, there has been what sounds like a different dog in her house. And when she goes out, this dog incessantly barks. It's doing it now. I don't know if you can hear it or not. I've tried to meddle with my microphone to put it nearer to me, although that is also nearer to the wall behind me. I always edit my videos to cancel background noise anyway, so I'm really hopeful that by the time I've edited this and noise cancelled, you'll be like, what's she talking about? We can't hear a dog. But if you can, I'm really sorry. I don't know how long my neighbour's going to be out for, and I don't have all day to film this, so bear with is what I'm saying. So after all those disclaimers, let's get on with the 2022 knits. The first thing that I just want to briefly talk about is not something that I knit in 2022, but 2022. How many times am I going to say that in this video? This was the year when I first published my own designs as patterns, which has been amazing, and I hope I say it enough, but again, thank you so much for all the support for the first sweater and more recently the first cardigan. It's been like a really, really enjoyable, like, I don't want to use the word journey because that sounds really lame, but I suppose it is, experience. It's been great. I've learned so much, and I'm hoping that these will not be the last designs. So in order to not be like constantly switching on and off outfits, I thought I'd wear my first sweater. Ta-da! Because it wasn't knit in 2022, but it was released in 2022 in January, so coming up for a year ago now, and it's definitely been a highlight of the year for me. It's, you know, every time I see someone making it or someone buying the pattern, it makes me so happy. Over 1,000 copies of the pattern have been bought, which is incredible. There's over 100 Ravelry projects and like all different sizes, colours, yarn choices. So yeah, thank you. And I thought I'd wear it because really, knitting wise, it was the highlight of 2022 for me, without a doubt. So that said, let's get into it. So the first things I'm going to talk about are things that I made fairly early on in 2022. I think I might just start saying this year and not keep saying 2022 because it's a lot of twos and it's a lot of and they are also the only things that I have that are not garments, so I'll just talk about them first. I was going to say went through, but I've got another one on my needles at the minute, so can't say went through. I have an obsession with the Oslo Hat by Petite Knit, and when I finish the one that's currently on my needles, I will have made 4 in different colours. And yeah, they're great. I absolutely love the fit. I've made them all in the same yarn, which I will show you just in different colours, and I think it's an absolutely great pattern. So the first one I finished was in January of this year, and it's this beautiful green one. All these hats are knit in Lana Gatto VIP, which is a merino and cashmere mix, and this particular green yarn was gifted to me very kindly by my friend Simona of knit.co.uk, who has recently opened a real life shop in Teddington, so if you're ever down that way, go and check it out. This is in the colour Moss, and she gifted this yarn to me, I think in the summer of 2021, I think, ish, maybe, and I knit this up. No, it wasn't. It was, anyway, at some point in 2021. And I knit this up into an Oslo hat at the beginning of this year. It's absolutely great. I'll put it on because I've not got my hair up today for once. I absolutely love the fit. My hair's recently been cut, so I don't normally wear hats when I've got such short hair, but you can see the fit of it there. It's very, very snug to the head with this beautiful like triple folded brim and crown decreases, and yeah, it's just super, super snug and cozy, and I absolutely love the colour of this yarn. It's beautiful. So yeah, this is the first one I made, first of many. They're all knit on 3.5mm needles. That is the recommended needle size in the pattern. I think my gauge is a little bit tight on that needle size. Surprise, surprise. I am a very tight knitter, but I really like the fabric it makes, and the fit is great. So I've stuck with that. Oh, oh dear! Look who didn't weave their ends in nearly a year later. That's embarrassing. Funny story actually, my mum was wearing this hat on a walk we went on Boxing Day, and somehow she managed to put it on inside out. I don't quite know how she managed that. And she was walking around and you could just see the little loose threads, the ends that are not weaved in, poking out the top. That's how I realised there were ends still to weave in. So I'm sure you'll have heard this story, but I made this hat for myself, and my partner Pete loved it so much, loved the fit, sent me pictures of him wearing it while I was at work, and was like, oh, where do you get that yarn from? And then the next thing I know, he's been on Simona's website, knit.co.uk, and purchased himself some mustard yarn to make, well, for me to make him an Oslo hat. So this is the second Oslo hat I made for him, knit up in the VIP by Lana Gatto again, but in this mustard colour. And this is the two side by side. He wears this such a lot. He's very knit-worthy, actually. So much, in fact, that he's been hinting about wanting like a black or a navy one, and so in his Christmas stocking I put 3 skeins of the VIP in navy blue, which I am knitting up. I'll show you actually. It's just here. Knitting up into another Oslo hat for him. It's definitely coming up more black in this light. Let me see if I can show you the colour properly. Maybe. Hopefully you can appreciate that that is actually navy blue. But yes, I think he will love and appreciate this one. I've just got to the stage where I've done the fold for the brim, the first fold where you knit the edges together. So then I'm going to have to just knit like this length again to make the triple fold, and then it won't be long until I'm doing the crown decreases. So I cast this on Boxing Day, and it just shows what you can achieve when you don't have to go to work, because that's a lot of knitting. Anyway, this isn't meant to be a talk about whips, and just got too excited. There is actually a third finished Oslo hat that belongs to my brother in red. The colour is called Verona Red, but I don't have it with me. It is gifted, and I imagine it will be accompanying him on his trip to South America that he's currently on, to trek in the mountains. So yeah, all that to say that 2022 was clearly the year of Oslo hats for me, and I think I probably will have the 4th one finished by the end of 2022, because that is in over 24 hours time, and we've got a couple of car journeys and some chilling out to do before then, so it's on. The second thing I've got to show you is something that I test knit this year. In fact, it was my only test knit of this year for my lovely friend Laura of Penrose Knits. This was her first garment design, and probably the design that kind of like made Penrose Knits like a thing in the knitting world. She made some socks before that, the corner set socks, which are beautiful, but I feel like Penrose Knits is synonymous with this garment, and I think she would probably agree with that. So here is my, I bet you know what I'm going to show you, Soufflé, by the lovely Laura of Penrose Knits. I am going to do some cutaways of these garments, or some pictures, maybe even insert some footage of me wearing them like in other podcasts as FOs. I think that might be useful, and this one in particular is a little bit creased from where it's been folded up in my drawer, but you totally get the idea. This is the front, and this is the back, with this very cute little keyhole detail, to which I have affixed a leopard print button, of course. And yeah, this is, I finished this in March, so that must have been around when the test knit deadline was. I remember I finished this when I had COVID, so yay. 2022 just a thing, isn't it, that? And it's essentially this like beautiful top that's entirely knit in mohair, using one strand up here, above the ruffle in the yoke, and 2 strands for the body and the sleeves. There's lots of like lovely little finishing details. Obviously the ruffle, which is sort of like the star of the show. Let me try and focus on the ruffle a bit better. There you are. There's the ruffle in all its ruffly glory. Mohair ruffle there, along with some I-cord on the neckline. I'd never done I-cord before I knit this. The keyhole is also I-cord. And another first in this, the sleeves and the hem are folded, which I think just gives a really nice finish. So yeah, I made this in Drops Kid Silk in navy blue. Navy blue? I'm not sure exactly what oh yeah, no, it is navy blue. And I think I made this on 4.5mm, I think. That's what I've put on my Ravelry, so it should be correct. And what else to say? It's so cute. I actually, not so much this winter, but in the spring and kind of early summer, I wore this a lot. It's, considering it's like a full mohair garment in Drops Kid Silk, which I know a lot of people find one of the itchier mohairs. I don't wear it with anything underneath it, and it's absolutely fine. It's I don't find it too itchy. I think the neck isn't particularly high. It kind of sits like here. So you've not got like scratchy mohair up here. And also it's got, my one at least has got a fair bit of ease, positive ease, so it's not like very, very close to the skin. But yeah, this was really fun. The test knit for this was like a really fun thing to be a part of. I think like Laura wouldn't mind me saying that quite a lot of changes had to be made, so it was like really interesting process to be a part of, as well as sort of her first like garment test knit. Sorry, my focus is going a bit funny. And yeah, it was really, really fun garment to make, and I know I'll get a lot more use out of it. I would quite like to maybe make, in the pattern you can make like a long sleeve version as well, so I would quite like to do that. That'd be fun. But yeah, don't know, there's not really much more to say about this little souffle by my lovely friend Penrose Knits. I'm going to reset my camera because it's focused. That's better. So moving on, the next thing I have to show you is right at the bottom of my pile, and it's another Petite knit garment. This is the Louisiana Sweater. I think I made this around in the spring sometime, can't remember exactly when, and this was an interesting make, in that it was a really spontaneous yarn purchase. I just saw the yarn in a shop and was like, oh my god, love that colour, and I had the Louisiana Sweater pattern in my library for ages and ages, and yeah, I was like, do you know what, yeah, I'll make that. So here it is. It's very green and very fluffy. In fact, I say it's very green, and then we have the accidental colour block that I've ended up loving, and I'll tell you about that in just a sec. So this is made from Sirdar Temptation, which is like a sort of like a big mohair, but it's not mohair because it's mainly, if not totally, acrylic, but like, you know, one of those kind of chunky mohair style yarns, and it's in the colour Sour Lime for this green colour, and the grey, well, it says it's ivory. Is it ivory? natural ivory, but it's certainly coming up more grey on camera, and in real life it looks more grey. But I don't know if that's just in contrast to the warmness of the green. So this is knit on 9mm needles, so amazing. And I'm pretty sure I did hold the yarn double. In the pattern, it's recommended with Sandnes Borsted Alpaca held double, which isn't quite the same yardage as this Sirdar Temptation, but not super far off. And it was just a bit of a fun knit, really. I was like, this will be really quick. I picked up the green yarn and really, really liked it. But I ended up having to make some modifications. So the first thing, obvious thing, is the pattern does not recommend a colour block. I ended up colour blocking because I ran out of the green yarn, and it became quite clear that I was going to run out of the green yarn. And I was like, oh, I could go and get some more green yarn. I can't remember if I did that and they didn't have any left. There was some reason why I didn't do that, I'm sure, because that would have been the obvious thing. Or maybe it was like one of them where you're like, oh, I'm not sure the dye lot's going to match. And then I just remember thinking, actually, I could just do a colour block and that would look really cool. So I did do a colour block, but I ended up just doing it on the body and not the sleeves, as you can see. And by the time I got to the stage where I needed to do the colour block, I'd kind of knit, a fair amount of the body. And I was like, well, it's just going to look a bit weird if I now I think I was ready. Maybe the pattern's a little bit cropped. It's not like super long. But I don't think far off where the colour changes was where are you ready to do the rib? And I was like, well, that's just going to look weird if just the rib is in the lighter colour. So I actually added a bit of length to this sweater and made it a bit longer so that the colour block was less strange. But I actually think it works really well. I decided to leave the sleeves as they were and use up the rest of the green, which I think looks quite cool. I could have done colour block at the end of the sleeves, but I just decided that it was enough on the body, really. I also put some elastic in the collar, but this is something I think I want to change. How I did it was I sewed sewing elastic into the folded edge of the collar, basically, here. And it's made a collar that kind of cinches in along the line, but there's no elastic in the actual folded bit. So when it's on, it cinches here, but it makes this bit a bit floppy. So it kind of folds down a bit and out, which is okay. It's sort of a certain look, but you can see it just wants to flop out. And I think it might be good to actually, especially as it's grown a bit with wear, to probably re-block it and then put elastic in this top bit as well. That is on my list of things to do. And I think I said that in the podcast where I'd finished this, which was months ago, and I haven't done it yet. So maybe this will serve as a reminder to actually do that. The thing about this pattern, I think it's one of Petite, it's one of the first early patterns, should I say, and it doesn't have any short rows, which is probably something that would also kind of improve the fit of it. But then it is an oversized kind of boxy fit, so I don't know if they're absolutely necessary, but if you wanted to be a bit fancy, you could add some in, because otherwise it is an oversized chunky raglan. So you could definitely incorporate some short rows if you felt so inclined. But yeah, that is the Louisiana Sweater by Petite Knit, which I have made in an acid green colour. So we're racing. Next is something that I finished in about May, which is a funny time to finish a jumper. But this one is made of a blown yarn mohair combo, so it's warm, but it's not like this. It's not proper winter chunky. And and it is the Sunday sweater, also by Petite Knit. This is the Petite Knit show apparently. Here it is. Ta-da! This is also a bit crumpled from being folded, apologies, but I think it's better for your knits to fold rather than hang, probably. So this is like one of Petite Knit's pretty famous patterns. Obviously it has like, I think it's called infinity rib on the yoke, where the ribbing sort of increases in width. So it starts off pretty narrow up at the neckline and then increases in width as the yoke goes on. So it's not a raglan, it's like a circular yoke, and then the rib pattern finishes when you split the sleeves and the body is knit in stockinette. And it has these little balloon sleeves with quite short rib, similar to the neck and the hem. So I knit this in Sandnes Cos, which was gifted to me by Simona of Knit Yarns, and that is in the colour Light Moss, and I combined it with Filcolana Tilia mohair in the colour Green Tea, and I like the fabric that it's made. You can see if I show up close, hopefully, that the Tilia is just slightly lighter than the Cos. So it's one of those where it gives a sort of mild effect because you can see the core, the silk core of the mohair. But I don't mind that, and it kind of gives it a cool texture, especially up in the ribbing. And they were a very good colour match. As soon as I saw the Cos that Simona sent me, I was like, this will go nicely with some Green Tea mohair I had, which I actually got in someone's yarn de-stash, I think. So I had to buy a little bit more Green Tea mohair to meet the yardage, but I had enough Cos. I think I've even got some left over because this, I don't remember it using actually too much yarn, which was nice. So I did modify this slightly, mainly in terms of the gauge, and I talked about this in the podcast episode that this sweater features in, but just to briefly go back to it here, I think the pattern calls for a 14 stitch gauge on 7mm needles, I want to say. Yeah, and I swatched on 7mm needles with my Cos and my Tilia, and I just didn't really like the fabric it made. It was very like light and airy, which this is obviously going to be, being a blown yarn composition, but it was like too holey and too drapey and just wasn't for me. So I was like, maybe I'll go down a needle size. 6mm still like pretty chunky for me, it will still fly. I much preferred the fabric, and actually when I looked into it, the recommended yarn for the pattern is Penrose's Snefnug, and that has something like an extra 50, sorry, the Cos has an extra 50 meters per skein, per 50 grams or whatever it is, compared to the Snefnug. So I think the Cos is actually, even though it is recommended as an alternative in the pattern, I think it is thinner than the Snefnug, and therefore that's probably why I got a bit of a different fabric. So it was fine. I just knit to about a 16 stitch gauge and changed sizes accordingly. Needed to kind of knit a bigger size to have more stitches, which would actually make a smaller size because my stitches are more compact because my gauge was different, which was fine. And I don't mind a bit of knitting maths in that respect. The other thing I did was, I think quite a lot of people have done this, is in the pattern, the sleeves, there's no shaping in this, but in the pattern, right at the end at the cuff, there's actually increases before the cuff to make like a bit of a bell shaped sleeve, and I didn't fancy that, so I just didn't do those, and then I did the decreases to make the cuff. Again, no short rows in this. Maybe they would be a bit tricky in the infinity rib, I'm not sure, or maybe it's again because it was a like early-ish petite knit pattern. You could probably put them in if you want to, but actually I don't find the fit of this like cries out for them at all. I like wearing this. It's, like I said, it's not like a super bulky winter jumper, but because of the sort of fibres that are in the cloth, it's very, very warm. Glasses keep sliding down my face, so sorry. Keep touching my face. So yeah, that's this bad boy. Absolutely love the colour. When I saw that Simona had sent me the green yarn in this colour, I was like, she knows me well. So thank you as always, Simona, for that. Yeah, I finished this in, it was May, because I remember finishing it when I was staying with my mum and dad, and we went in May for my dad's birthday. So next I have the sister to my first sweater. So my second pattern that I've designed is the First Cardigan. Almost as soon as this was done and released, I was like, it needs a cardigan, and I want it to be a V-neck cardigan. And I'm not going to relive all the drama that I went through creating the first cardigan in terms of like the construction. There's plenty of chat in my podcast about it, but essentially I had this vision that I wanted it to be a V-neck cardigan with a double knit button band, and let's just say that took a lot of trial and error, but the result, in my opinion, is super, super worth it. I also knew that I wanted to use some more obnoxiously green yarn that I actually won from Simona in a giveaway before I knew her properly. And yeah, it's green. So if you haven't seen it, or even if you have, this is my first cardigan, which is a pattern by me, and I love her. She's so beautiful. I think just because so much like time and effort went into making this pattern, and ironing out the details just will always hold a special place in my heart. But as you can see, it's very, very similar to the jumper that I'm wearing. The sleeves are almost exactly the same. I think the cardigan sleeves have a little bit more positive ease, so they're just a bit bigger, but otherwise they are the same. The stockinette gauge and stockinette portion is the same as the sweater, and the raglan detailing is the same. You can't see that. It's a 3-stitch raglan, but obviously the main difference is the V-neck and the double knit button band, which I am trying and failing to show you here. Sorry, 1 second. 1 second. There we go. I also agonised over the button choice. But yes, I'm very pleased with how this worked out. Another design feature that I put into it was like lifted increases to make the V-neck, which I think is just really like subtle and clean, and also makes your pickup edge for the double knit button band very clean, because you're not picking up an edge with increases on it. They're set back from the edge, which I found it made things a lot easier. So yeah, I probably finished this, can't remember exactly when I finished it, late summer, yeah, late July, August time. The test knit started in September and finished just before Christmas, and the pattern was released on the 10th of December. Our cats have an automatic feeder, and that must mean, yeah, it's 12:30. I don't know if you just saw Miss Molly just fly past us, but when that feeder goes off, they are off like a shot. Hugo hasn't come down from upstairs yet. He's normally a bit slower. Molly is. As soon as it goes off, she's there. So that's what that noise was. So she'll probably be back in a minute when she's had her lunch. But but yes, what was I saying? First Cardigan. So this is made with Arvetta, which is technically a sock yarn, like a merino and nylon mix from Filcolana, fingering weight yarn held with mohair. This is the same, Arvetta held with mohair. This is held with Drops Kid Silk mohair, and the cardigan is held with Tilia. They're very similar in weight, so really any standard mohair that's roughly 210 meters per 50 gram per 25 grams will work just fine. And yeah, the cardigan and the sweater are both knit on 4mm needles by me. I know that my gauge is very tight, so a lot of my test knitters needed to go size down, some quite considerably. Most, if not all, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions of like a group of nearly 30 test knitters, managed to get gauge on either somewhere between a 3 and a 4mm needle. And it's not just me, some people did meet gauge on a 4mm needle, I'd just like to point out. But yeah, again, thank you so much for your support for my 2 patterns. They are on sale on my Ravelry, and I am running a promotion which is going to be semi-permanent, if not permanent, where you can buy both patterns for £11 or your currency equivalent, instead of, if you bought them separately, they would be £13 because they are £6.50 each. So a little saving there. Obviously that relies on you not having already bought the sweater, but yeah, who doesn't love a bundle? You just need to buy them in the same transaction to get that bundle, and it's automatically applied. So yeah, probably not loads more to say about the cardigan because I have talked about it so much. Probably all sick to death of it. But yeah, it's my second baby, and I'm so proud of that. I just had to go upstairs and get the next knit because I completely forgot about it. I've written it in my list and I forgot to bring it downstairs. So the next thing I made is the only, unless you count the souffle, is the only sort of summer-ish garment. And this is the Svila Camisole by Kadri. I made this out of Sandnes Garn Tinlina, which is a linen, cotton and viscose mix, I think. Again, it was gifted by Simona of Knit Yarn, so thank you so much. Out of breath from running upstairs, that's not good. This is the camisole. Again, it's a little bit creased from hanging in my wardrobe, and linen will just crease like nobody's business. But I hope that you can get the gist of this camisole. There is a cat poking around the tripod. Molly. Hello. Hi. Are you coming up? Or are we going back to bed? You coming to say hello? Come on then. Come say hi. Oh, hello. Hello. Oh, you're purring. She's very friendly. You gonna be a good girl? Yeah? Okay. She loves to sit on a blanket. So if I maybe put this blanket here. Are you just going to sit next to me? Okay, as long as you do that and don't mess about. Anyway, sorry about that. That was me, not the cat. This is the Svila Camisole. It's got these lovely lifted increase details on the cups of the camisoles, camisole singular, and on the front and also on the back. But they are smaller on the back than on the front. And the straps are little I-cord straps that kind of follow on from the increased details. So what else to say about this? Again, had to do a bit of knitting maths. The gauge for this is 25 stitches on 3.5mm needles. Because it's me and I'm the world's lightest knitter, I did a gauge swatch and got 27 stitches blocked, but really like the fabric. So again, just did some maths, knit a size bigger, and adjusted accordingly. And the fabric it's made is really, really lovely. I really like it. However, I have to say I'm not mad about the fit of this garment. Here's the fabric. It's very nice. I can get the camera to focus. Yeah, it's beautiful. The mild nature of the yarn is stunning, and the drape from the linen, from the tin liner, is beautiful. You can see there a modification that I made as well to the hem. It's an I-cord hem in the pattern, and I, off the success of my soufflé, wanted to do a folded hem, which I think has worked out really, really nicely. But yeah, I'm just not mad about the fit. In a previous podcast, kind of talk about it a bit more. I don't know if maybe my straps are a bit long. The I-cord obviously has stretched, but also the fabric, probably see it better actually on the wrong side. It just it folds over a lot. You can see here it rolls. So if I unroll that edge, like it's meant to be like that, but it just wants to like roll in, which just kind of makes the fit of the cups a bit weird. Like you can see if I hold it up like that, it just wants to fold over so much, and you lose some of the width of the actual garment and the coverage, I suppose, in a garment like this. My neighbour is back and the dog has stopped barking, so that's good news. So yes, I think this will maybe be more of like a really, really hot day garment, or I styled it before when I wore it in a podcast like under a shirt, because I love the colour. It's really, really nice. But yeah, I just don't love the fit, which is a shame. But it's my first, no, that's a lie, second knitted cami I've ever made. So maybe I will learn on my next one to just really be careful with the I-cord straps and not knit them too long. I have a couple of camis actually that I started in the summer and didn't finish, mainly because I was working on the First Cardigan, camisole number 2 and the June top. So the June top doesn't have I-cord straps, but I think cami number 2 might, or they might be like thin straps, which probably will still stretch. So yes, lesson learned. I also don't know if it's partly like, you know, the yarn I used, it's not what's recommended in the pattern. I can't remember what is actually, if it's a merino or it might be pure silk, I'm not sure. But obviously it's lovely that this fabric is so drapey. That like is a really nice finish, but it probably contributes to the kind of fit issues. So pros and cons. Moving on, the next two items I have are not here, sadly, but not sadly really, because they've both been gifted and are being enjoyed by their new owners. The first one is the Friday Sweater Mini. I'll insert picture obviously, that I made for a very good friend who had her first baby in October, and I knew I wanted to make her a little sweater. So I chose the Friday Sweater Mini because I've really liked it for ages and wanted to try the broken rib stitch, and yeah, it was an absolute joy to make. Quite fiddly because it's like in fingering weight yarn, held single, but because it was for a little one, it was bearable. I did think I wanted an adult version for myself, but I'm not sure I could actually go through that that process in an adult size. I made the size 1 to 2 years because my friend wanted it for like next winter. She was like, oh, if you make a newborn one, it'll be really cute, but he'll not fit in it for very long, which I think is sensible. So hopefully the 1 to 2 year size will fit him, like, you know, in a year's time, when it will fit him for more than like a week or so. And I made it in the Sandnes Garn Sunday, which I'd never used before. I've used double Sunday, but I hadn't used Sunday before. And I used Kit as the main colour and then striped that orange feeling, which I absolutely loved. Like the Kit was so subtle and like slightly cool toned neutral, and then that orange feeling is just like so in your face, obnoxious orange. It's great. So yeah, really enjoyed that. And the finished object was very cute. But yes, it was all on, I think, 3 or 3.5mm needles. So even though it was made for like a 1-year-old, it took quite a while. But it was a good like summer knit because it was so tiny and it was fingering, so it didn't, you know, that when you've just got a chunky knit on your lap in the summer and sweat and sun cream and it's just not the one. So that was a good summer knit, and I think I finished it in around, I say summer, late summer, and I think I finished it early October, just in time for when he was born. So the second gifted knit that I don't have here is a very recently gifted knit, and it is the Zipper Sweater Man, which I gifted to my dad on Christmas Day, and he absolutely loved, which was amazing. He's so knit worthy. It's the second sweater I've made him, and he is just, I think he would wear hand knit sweaters all the time if he could. When they came up a few weeks ago, at the beginning of December, I think I saw him 2 days and he was wearing his other jumper that I've knit him both days, which was so funny. So this sweater was an absolute saga. Again, more about it in my previous podcast, but yeah, it was initially meant for my brother last Christmas, but I decided that the yarn choice I'd made, which was Sandnes Garn Fritted Garn, was too rustic and itchy for him. I tried to combine it with brushed alpaca to soften it up, which it did, but not enough. So I completely restarted 12 months ago and made my brother a version in Drops Nepal, which was much better and suited him loads, and he loves. He came to visit just before Christmas and I showed him what I was making for my dad, and he was like, yeah, I'm really glad you didn't give that to me. So right decision was made. And when my dad opened it on Christmas Day, he absolutely loved it. He loved the rusticness of it. He says like, this isn't itchy at all. It's so nice. Like, so absolutely right recipients received the right versions. It made for a very like dense, definitely like outerwear sort of garment, very different to the Drops Nepal version. I'll see if I can like have both on the screen. Yeah, just mad that you can make the same pattern in different yarns and it come out very different. Second time sewing in the zipper, I found it a bit more tricky this time, even though I was rushing it more last time. But I think again that's down to like how dense the fabric was. It wasn't very forgiving in terms of, you know, having to have the tension of the yarn and because the zipper is not stretchy and the knitted fabric is, so that's a little bit tricky to manipulate. And actually, when I'd finished sewing in the zipper, I realised the facing and thus the zipper was a bit wonky, which nearly made me despair. But I was like, no, I'm going to just block it again. I blocked it before sewing in, and so I spritzed the sort of zip and zip facing placket bit, kind of used some blocking pins to kind of just try and even everything out, left it to dry, and it was absolutely fine. You know, on the inside you can still see that the facing is a bit wonky, but you can't really tell from the outside, and my dad definitely didn't notice. I think it's one of those things that only I would notice. But yeah, he absolutely loved it. And yeah, it was a massive success. So I said in the previous video that I'm kind of trying to like cycle my gift knits so it doesn't like overwhelm me every year. So each kind of like core member of my family is going to get a gift knit every 3 years because there's 3 of them. And it makes it more enjoyable for me as well, because I'm not like, oh, what am I going to make all these people? It's like, no, I have one like gift knit to focus on each year. So it's working for me. It's my mum's turn next, and she's already put in her request for a first cardigan, so cheers mum. It's going to be weird working from my own pattern, but there we go. So my last thing to show you, because I need to wrap this up soon, is probably one of the knits I'm most proud of this year. I got the yarn for Christmas last year from my parents, and worked on it and then stopped working on it because it was warm and I had other stuff to work on, and then was like, right, I want this finished for this winter because I want to wear it. And it is my sweater number 11 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. The collar's a bit funny because it's been folded up in the drawer. There we go. And it is just stunning. I love it so much. I wore it in the latest episode of my podcast. It's just beautiful. I absolutely love how the yarn combination has come out. I love how the speckling has come out. I love the modifications I made, which I'll go through in a minute. It's just so good. I mean, I'm proud of all my knits, but this one's just got something about it, and it's my most recent cast off, so maybe it's got that novelty factor as well. So I made this with a combination of Peruvian Highland wool in Snow White and a hand-dyed mohair by Raya Yarns in the colourway Artemis, which is like a purple and navy kind of speckle effect, as you can see there. And I think the combination is just beautiful. I think it looks nice in the stockinette, and I think it also looks nice in the twisted rib bit of this pattern. So I made this in the smallest size. There's only 3 sizes of this pattern, and my gauge, again, theme emerging, was a bit off because I had to muck about with needle size a little bit. I had some issues with rowing out, so I ended up using 1 needle size for my knits and 1 needle size for my pearls, which changed my gauge a little bit, but it's fine because it literally had something daft 30 centimeters of positive ease, or maybe even more to start with, and then at the end, when my gauge was adjusted, it was still more than 20 centimeters of positive ease. So it's absolutely fine and hasn't affected the fit at all. If anything, it's probably more what I wanted it to be. So design features of this are the beautiful shoulder detail that you can see there, the twisted rib on the neckband. The pattern recommends a sort of funnel neck that you knit the twisted rib quite a large amount and then kind of fold it over to have a funnel neck, but I didn't really fancy that, so I knitted it a bit shorter and folded it down into a twisted rib crew neck, which I'm really happy with. Then twisted rib on the cuffs and twisted rib on the hem, and I changed the hem to a split hem, which I've never done before, so that was fun. And I really like, I've had quite a lot of people say, oh wow, I really like that actually, and that they've been inspired to do it, which is very sweet. So it kind of makes this sweater a combination of the sweater number 11, which is the pattern that I used, and the Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit, which is very similar but has the split hem. And I actually purchased both patterns, knit the pattern almost entirely from sweater number 11, but then used Petite Knit's split hem. Maybe could have done it without a pattern, but I was like, I've never done this before, let's just make sure I'm doing it right, see if Petite Knit's got any tricks up her sleeve, and yeah, it worked a treat. So I definitely going to make more split hems in the future. But yes, I absolutely love this. It's such a cozy winter appropriate piece, and I hope you do too. So that sums up my 2022 makes. It's quite, I was going to say quite varied, but actually they're pretty much all garments and mostly sweaters, so maybe they're not as varied as I thought. But it includes a design, other people's designs, 2 sort of summery tops, different sort of yarn combinations, things I've learned, you know, adjustments made, which is something that I'm really enjoying, sort of like following a pattern, yes, but then kind of being like, well, actually, I'd rather have this detail than that, or I've got a very tight gauge, but I like this fabric, so how can I make that work for me? Kind of not just like completely making things to pattern, but making the changes that I want to make, if that makes sense. So hopefully 2023 will bring more of the same. I hope that it will bring at least one more design from me. And yeah, hopefully at least as much, if not more, knitting. So I hope you've enjoyed that whistle stop tour through 2022 Hive Knits archives. As always, if you want to see any more details into any of the things that I've shown, then they are all, yes, all shown in various podcast episodes. So yeah, you can have a watch of those to find out more. Hope everyone has a brilliant last couple of days of the year. I'm not a massive fan of like New Year celebrations, you know, like going out and all that. We'll probably just chill out and then like see in the new year and then go to bed, which to me sounds like a great New Year's Eve, to be honest. But however you're celebrating, I hope you have a great time, and I hope that 2023 starts really well for everybody. Thank you for all your support this year. Like my Instagram has definitely grown, my YouTube has grown. It's been so nice kind of, you know, doing regular podcasts. Been doing it for nearly a year and a half now. And I know the content's a bit stop start, which I'm sorry like I'd like to do more, but I'm not going to apologise because that's just life and that's just what happens. So yes, but I definitely want to continue podcasting in 2023. So Hive Knits and Natters is going nowhere. Okay, so I'll wrap up here. Take care and Happy New Year, everybody. Happy knitting. Bye.